is dedicated to the review of striking headlines in the papers. We are sorry for the late start of the program today. And of course, the newspapers are focusing on the death of Bia's ally, former Bia's ally, who reportedly died at the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital yesterday. We are talking about Senator Dakole Daissala, the man who helped President Paul Biya to get absolute majority in parliament in 1992, shortly after the March 1 parliamentary elections in the country. We shall talk more on that and many other headlines that are making news in the papers today, especially the meeting which held at the Prime Minister's office to evaluate major national dialogue recommendations, as is still making echoes in the newspapers. Gwladys Bomotonguina is here. Let's find out what she gathered for us in the French language newspapers. Bonjour Gwladys.
Bonjour Lasha, bonjour à vous et merci de nous retrouver pour cette autre édition de Debrief, votre émission bilingue de revue de presse sur My Media Prime Télévision. Alors ce matin, nous débutons avec le journal Le Jour. Le journal Le Jour nous parle en grand titre du décès du sénateur, de l'ancien ministre Dakole Daissala. Il est décédé donc en 2022. Le journal nous révèle qu'il est né en 1943 et décédé en 2022. La biographie de Dakole Daissala, c'est dans cette édition du journal Le Jour à sa page 2 et 3. En page 4, le journal nous parle de Bogo à son nouveau lamido. Aladji Bolo Mohamedou, ingénieur de génie civil, a été porté en triomphe par les 33 notables électeurs. Les détails sont donc effectivement en page 4 du journal Le Jour ce matin. À sa page 5, le journal nous parle du prix des intrants de la presse écrite qui explosent donc au Cameroun. Nous poursuivons, mesdames, messieurs, ce matin avec l'économie quotidien. L'économie quotidien parle en grand titre de l'évaluation au Cameroun, les raisons de l'augmentation de la dette publique du Cameroun. Les chiffres à juin 2022 viennent d'être publiés dans une note de conjoncture de la Caisse autonome d'amortissement. Les détails sont en page 3 de l'économie quotidien ce matin. À sa page 7, le journal nous parle aussi du décès du sénateur et ancien ministre Dakole Daissala qui tire donc sa révérence du Cameroun. Les détails sont donc effectivement en page 7 de l'économie quotidien ce matin. Nous poursuivons, mesdames, messieurs, ce matin avec le journal Château Hebdo. Le journal Château Hebdo parle en grand titre de Dieunedor Kamdem, le pasteur Dieunedor Kamdem qui est donc innocenté et blanchi pour la deuxième fois par la justice ivoirienne. Les détails sont donc en page 3 et 8 du journal Château Hebdo ce matin. Nous continuons, mesdames, messieurs, avec l'œil du Sahel. L'œil du Sahel parle aussi en grand titre de nécrologie. Dakole Daissala est donc décédé. Les détails sont en page 3 de l'œil du Sahel ce matin. À sa page 2, le journal nous parle de Bello Mohamedou qui est donc le nouveau lamido de Bogo. En page 2, le journal nous parle du Mayo Tsanaga, un adjudant et un officier de police en prison pour enlèvement. En page 11, le journal nous parle du Lamida de Ngaoundéré, de la tradition à la modernité. Nous clôturons, mesdames, messieurs, ce matin avec le journal Réalité Plus. Réalité Plus parle en grand titre d'exclusif. Si rien ne change, voici à quoi va donc ressembler le nouveau gouvernement de Paul Biya qui est donc en train d'être corrigé. Les détails sont en page 2 et 3 du Réalité Quotidien Plus ce matin. À sa page 4 et 7, le journal Réalité Quotidien Plus nous parle de la fin de la réunion semestrielle des gouverneurs, les grandes prescriptions du ministre de l'administration territoriale, Paul Atangandi. Les détails sont donc effectivement en page 4 et 7 du journal Réalité Quotidien ce matin. Mesdames, messieurs, voilà pour vos titres en langue française. Place à la découverte des titres en langue anglaise avec toi, Lasha.
Thank you, Gwladys Bomotonguina. Let's kickstart this morning with the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post this morning is focusing on the death of Senator Dakole Daissala, the man who helped President Paul Biya retain power in 1992. Biya loses ally, as the paper puts it this morning. The head of state, President Paul Biya, has lost a key political ally, Senator Dakole Daissala, to the cold hands of death. The paper tells us further that a native of Gudei in Kaele Mayokani division of the Far North region is said to have died in the way as of yesterday at the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital. Siashu Daissala Dakole died at the age of 79, according to the Guardian Post newspaper. He has returned to his creator with the historic record of having been the politician who helped President Paul Biya's Cameroon People's Democratic Movement CPDM party to have a relative majority in parliament after the March 1, 1992 parliamentary elections in the country. More details on page 3 of this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. Let's talk about this letter that has been written by workers of Cameroon Development Corporation CDC, tear-provoking letter that was addressed to Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute. The paper captions dying CDC workers pen tear-provoking letter to PM. The paper tells us further that some workers of Cameroon Development Corporation CDC have cabled an emotion-packed letter to the Prime Minister, head of government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, citing tear-jerking grievances. In the tear-provoking letter circulated Monday, the disgruntled workers berated government for having abandoned CDC workers to their fate. They said several of their peers have died of depression due to over 28 months of unpaid wages or salaries. You can read more in this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper on page 5. Let's talk about this report by Francis. She has released nearly 90 billion francs CFA in 2021 for development aid in the country. You can read more in this edition of the said newspaper, talking about the report that was released by the French Development Agency. The French Development Agency said the government of the Republic of France has released over 90 billion francs CFA for developmental projects in Cameroon, as we are told. Let's talk about this holiday maker that has who has died in Yaoundé after reportedly consuming poisoned beef. The 12-year-old boy died after consuming meat on which rat poison was sprinkled, as the paper tells us. The said incident is said to have occurred yesterday in Yaoundé Fundi division of the Central region. Reports gathered by the newspaper said the boy began having breathing difficulties after consuming the said beef, which was poisoned and intended for a rat, as we are told. More details on page 2 of this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. On to municipal updates. Municipal updates newspaper is talking about violations of human rights in the Northwest and Southwest regions. Toll-free number to report abuses released, as we are told. You can read more on page 3 of this edition of municipal updates newspaper. Details about the toll-free number to call when abuses are noticed in the Northwest and the Southwest regions of the country. Limbe City Mayor puts a stubborn first deputy on hot seat. The paper tells us further that he has demanded explanation on whereabouts of 30 million francs CFA collected by Karin Tanga on behalf of municipality, and wants first deputy to stop engaging in uncivic behavior tarnishing council's image or face sanctions. You can read more in this edition of Municipal Updates newspaper. The Sun newspaper is also interested in the warning that was dished out to the first deputy mayor of the city of Limbe. The paper tells us this morning that city mayor calls first deputy to order. You can read more in this edition of the Sun newspaper. And the Sun newspaper is also interested in the implementation of major national dialogue recommendations. PM Diongute lists achievements and still long route to cover. As the paper tells us, the meeting was held at the Star Building recently to evaluate. That was the 4th meeting, as the paper tells us, to evaluate how far the committee that was put in place has gone with the implementation of recommendations that were arrived at during the major national dialogue in Yaoundé. Thank you for watching, televiewers of My Media Prime Television. We are back in the studio to continue with our discussions this morning. Amadou Tante is already with us in the studio. He is a human rights actor or promoter, and he is with us this morning to talk on some of the issues that the newspapers are talking about this morning. Amadou Tante, good morning and welcome.
Good morning once more, Mr. Lasha. Good morning to the telespectators of My Media Prime Television. It's always a pleasure for me to be a guest on your program.
Maitre Alex Ndive is also joining us on the line to UK. Maitre Alex, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Lasha. I understand Mr. Kante is there. Welcome to the program. Is bright. And good morning, Gwladys. Good morning to your entire team. Good morning to the people of the Cameroons. And I want to send condolences to the friends and family of Mr. Dakole, Daissala, whom I have to have met once more to the beautiful people of the Cameroon.
Thank you, Maitre. We shall be coming back to you. Let's begin with Amadou Tante. Amadou Tante, a toll-free number has been launched or released for Cameroonians to report abuses in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. We are told that there are several complaints which came in talking about abuses being committed in northwest and southwest in the ongoing war that is there. So a toll-free number has been released for people to call and report these abuses. Are you, from a human rights defender perspective, are you hopeful that this move that has been taken will go a long way to reduce some of the abuses that you guys are fighting for in the northwest and southwest?
Well, actually, I would say at least it's a good move. I said a good move by the National Commission for Human Rights in Cameroon. At least those are the kind of things we have been expecting that they should do, because this will go a long way to help in at least limiting the violations in one way or the other. That notwithstanding, I don't understand how the National Commission for Human Rights, because normally the National Commission for Human Rights is normally supposed to be the watchdog of human rights within Cameroon. But it's very regrettable that they have been playing a very limited role with regard to the conflict in the Anglophone Northwest.
But you know that this commission is placed under the watchful eye of Prime Minister. It is linked to the Prime Ministry, and why do you think that the commission should be independent and separate?
No, normally the commission is supposed to be independent, no matter the fact that the leaders are being appointed by the regime in place. Normally, it's a recommendation from the United Nations that they are supposed to have a commission as such, so that they should be watching.
Why must it be linked to the Prime Minister's? Why must it be linked to the Prime Minister's office? Can it not be created? Can it not be created by President Pobia as an independent entity with its own budget, everything, without necessarily being linked or attached to the Prime Minister's office?
Well, for that one, I cannot really say why, but I still insist that this normally is supposed to be an independent institution. As you bear know that even the leaders are being appointed by the President of the Republic himself. So maybe he has no reason why they think that it should be linked to the Prime Minister's office. But the institution is supposed to be independent. Even all those that are appointed to lead the institution are supposed to be independent people, and they are supposed to take the interests of Cameroonians first, and keep political alienation aside, because I just realized that this commission is working only in line with what the government of the Republic of Cameroon asked them to do, because we have seen a lot of violations and abuses going on in the Anglophone regions on a daily basis. But this commission has been playing a very limited part.
A commission without a power to sanction. What do you think a commission which is supposed to make only reports and recommendations do? No, at least they have any power to sanction. Like, no, if their abuses are reported, they act on and just give the reports to President Pobia on what they have done. No, that's not the case.
No, the most important thing is for them to play their own part. If they don't have that power to sanction, they have the power right now to only to monitor what's happening on the ground and report them. But if they are not doing so, it means that they too are failing in their own work. So normally they're supposed to.
If you report, somebody has to take action.
It doesn't really matter if you are asked to do something. Just do it as it's supposed to be. So maybe if you do your own work now, as I send the report now to the presidency, it means that the work now is now left with them for them to play their own part. It means that you have already played your own part. You are supposed to play there. But if you are unable to play your own normal duty that you are supposed to do,
saying that the Human Rights Commission has not been doing.
No, I think the Human Rights Commission in Cameroon have been doing virtually nothing with regard to the conflict in the Anglophone region of Cameroon.
Okay, Maitre Alex, toll-free number released.
Yes, I can get the Lasha.
Toll-free number released for people to report abuses in the northwest and southwest regions.
Okay, you're talking about human rights abuses. What is happening in Cameroon that we are putting the cart before the horse. Human rights are inalienable rights, like the right to be able to have, because your right to have work, your right to have property, the right of life. That's human rights. So when we talk about human rights in Cameroon, it is very difficult because the people who are governing Cameroon are the one abusing. When you see people going in the street, hitting people in the street, and you see them standing shoulder to shoulder with the Prime Minister of Cameroon, ask yourself that what is happening is what we call a law joint enterprise, a criminal syndicate. You have never seen the Prime Minister condemning people taking the laws into their, arresting a pregnant woman, kicking a man because he's a suspect. Human rights are certain rights that are listed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And the government of the Cameroon cannot guarantee that right. When you look at their constitution, when you look at the institution, when you look at the personalities who are governing that country. So we prefer to have activists who are fighting for change. But when it comes to talk about the institution of the Cameroons cannot guarantee any human right.
But Maître, this number,
and prove the people who are in power.
Maître Alex, this number that has been released is for people to call and report, at least report, like what you are saying. You are talking about Moja, what he has been doing. If people notice this, they can call and report that this is what Moja has been doing. He has been abusing the rights of people in the southwest region for actions to be taken. So why do you think it's not a good thing?
The problem is when you can collaborate what is happening in the front. When at one moment you see somebody taking the law to his or her hand, then the next minute you see him with Chief Diongute, then you can collaborate like birds flock together. In law, you can say that the Prime Minister is part of it because he has never come and condemn it openly. So at the end of the day, as I say, the institution of the Cameroons are not fit for purpose. Yes, as a human rights activist defender, all of us with Mr. Tante, we can talk. But the government is there to govern. The government is there to implement their laws. But what is happening today in the Cameroon, I've seen that. You can go scot-free by killing somebody so far as you support the government of Cameroon. You can embezzle money in the Cameroon. You can do anything that you want. Insofar as you're supporting the government, you're not going to be accountable. That's what is happening. At the end of the day, if we look at these things, I hope one day when I'm in Cameroon, we'll talk about these things. The first port of call is what is human rights. There are 30 of them in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it's inside the Constitution of Cameroon recognizes all those rights. So what is the essence of this window dressing exercise? Why is the government playing to the gallery? You cannot be a referee and a player at the same time. The government of the Cameroon is the referee and the player. So what do you expect? I don't expect anything much, but taking into consideration that the government of the Cameroon is the international community, so they have to be playing the gallery. Nothing will change until people like you, Mr. Lasha, Gwladys, Mr. Tande, you don't stand and put up and stand like parliamentarians, local councillors to change. If you keep on sitting, grumbling and stay without putting yourself forward, nothing will change. Be the change that you want to see. We cannot only sit on this program and be talking and complaining. Grumbling, we're doing nothing. I want to see the people who are complaining should be the next generation of MP, mayor, and local government. We keep on complaining. We'll see ministers who have been there before we were born. They are the same people ruling us. So we have to wake up and be that change that we want to see, rather than just saying that we criticize the government, we scrutinize them, we hold them into account. I've been that activist, that human rights defender for most of my life, more than 30 years. But now, I want to be that MP. I want to be that mayor. I don't want to fight for something and people who don't understand how to follow it. You cannot allow people who don't have license to drive the car to be driving your car. You cannot allow somebody who cannot pilot a plane, pilot your plane. If we keep on doing this, we know that we are heading to a disaster. So it's time to start and put ourselves forward and be captain. We must be working for people, not for our pocket. That is my policy. What I preach, that's what I want to practice, what I preach. I want to stand in position to implement my beliefs rather than saying something multi-party. The people said Jimabola, they are the one now who are parliamentarians. Rather than fighting for Goya University, who were against that one running, rather for fighting for national special statute, the people who were against it that one running. Let's stand and count it. That is the point. That is the road way forward.
Yes, Maitre Alex, Biya loses great ally, the man who helped him regain or retain power in 1992. Dakole Daissala reportedly died in the wee hours of yesterday at the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital. What is your memory? What do you retain of late Senator Dakole Daissala? You met him at the major.
Once more, I always like to distinguish between Dakole Daissala as an individual, a man who has got a right to family life and private life. As a personal individual who have got the right. I met Mr. Daissala, a very interesting person. I'm somebody I like to engage with people. I don't sit and just guys without knowledge. A personality, Dakole Daissala, is a soft-spoken person. We had some private conversation, and I walked him through the stairs. You could tell that he was walking with walking stick whatsoever. However, that personality was the perfect and best to me. But when it comes to politics, Mr. Dakole Daissala, I will look at it politically. We don't share the same. He is part of the person that have made Cameroon to what we call KO. His party was called Movement for the Defense of the Republic. What is a republic? A state in which a supreme power is held by the people. And Mr. Dakole Daissala was defending a country that we had somebody who have been in power for more than 40 years. Mr. Dakole Daissala became Director General Administrator in 1970. I was not born. He became in 1977. He was deputy mayor. I was not born. In 1970-73, Director of Transport. In 1973-1975, Director of Sotu. Then again, what I don't understand about the late Mr. Dakole Daissala, in 1984 he was arrested following the coup to overthrow President Paul Biya of the Republic of Cameroon. Mr. Dakole Daissala spent 7 years in prison. There was no trial, there was no charge, and he was released in 1991. Okay, Mr. Dakole Daissala came out from prison. What did he do to reform, to advocate for a justice system that is fair? How can you spend 7 years in prison, then you come and work with the government that have been you? Mr. Dakole Daissala wrote the book Free Behind Bars. I expected him to come out of prison and try to reform them. Instead, he propped up a government, rather a dictatorial government, by taking his 7 seats that he won in Far North and prop up a narrow majority of Mr. Biya. With that, Mr. Biya had the opportunity to change the constitution, remove the limit, and put a power grip on power. So he was the one who propped up Mr. Biya. Taking into consideration that Mr. Dakole Daissala was in prison for 7 years without trial and no charge. Then again in 1998, Mr. Dakole Daissala was barred from leaving Cameroon. So you see, he was working with a regime that's even against him. Then you ask yourself, why was Mr. Dakole Daissala working with a government that there's no freedom of expression, a government that there's no, only the president can guarantee your liberty, his passport was seized, all those things. I'm asking myself, why was he propping a dictatorial regime? And there's only one conclusion, personal aggrandizement, was fighting for himself. Mr. Biya is rewarding people who were accused of orchestrating a coup d'etat. After that, he compensated him as what? Minister of State for Post and Telecommunication. Okay, as a Minister of State of Post and Telecommunication, let's look at our Post and Telecommunication. Is there any achievement there? No. The internet and our telephone system is expensive, nothing changed. He became Minister of Transport. What did he do? Nothing again. We have no motorway for 60 years, nothing happened. So it tells you that they compensate you for propping up a dictatorial regime. You don't become a minister in Cameroon because you're competent, you want to work for the people, fight for their rights. You become a minister because you can create a minor party like from where he comes from, and you prop yourself to become minister and help your family and yourself. It is time that we change things. As I say, I respect Mr. Dakole Daissala as a human being. He has a right of private and family life. Our private discussion was constructive and nice. But however, politician, you remember as the person who destroyed the Cameroon.
Okay, Metra, coming back to you. Amadou Tante, you listen to Metra Alex there talking about the late senator. What is your own memory of the late senator?
Let me start by saying my condolences to the family of Mr. Senator for his demise. At least he has lived a life that will be remembered by those who, but that will be remembered by all the Cameroonians, despite the fact that we think he is among the Cameroonians or the politicians in Cameroon that has led Cameroon to where we are today. So it's really a regrettable situation. At least we know that he's not the first and he will not be the last, because I realize that most of Cameroonians, as well politicians, are taking into consideration, they are taking their personal interest or egoism as their priority. They care less about the life of every Cameroonian. So at least we are keep praying that as time goes on, these young politicians that are agreeing today should not embrace this kind of ways the leaders we have today have been leading.
Was he doing it in the interest of Cameroonians, knowing that he stayed in prison, left prison, and that singular act of his to hand all his 7 seats to President Pobia to have relative majority in parliament, from what Metra Alex was saying, has put Cameroonians through, a lot of problems, because apparently Mr. Biya would have not still been president today. Some other person might have taken up Cameroon and, move on with Cameroon in his own direction.
The issue, first of all, is that I think we don't even know the reason why he was released from prison. Because it might be possible that he was released. Those are some of the reasons why he was released from prison. Because normally, maybe the government realized that he had a lot of followers, and they decided to discuss with him and decided that he should be released for him to join them in one way or the other, to help them do whatsoever they are doing to ruin the life of Cameroonians.
Ok.
Amadou Tante, on va parler de l'exclusivité du journal Réalité Quotidien Plus. Ils nous disent ce matin qu'il y a certains changements que le chef de l'État, son Excellence Paul Biya, est en train d'opérer. Ils disent entre autres que 40% des ministres en poste actuellement vont être enlevés du bateau. Le journal Réalité Plus déclare encore que certains ministres barons qui ont été barons depuis plusieurs années vont être mis au repos. Le journal présente encore l'entrée de beaucoup de nouvelles figures et de jeunes dans la gouvernance du Cameroun. Il nous présente aussi le maintien de certains grands notables fidèles et loyaux. La possibilité d'un ministère des Camerounais de la diaspora. Voilà quelques-unes des notifications que le journal quotidien Réalité Plus nous présente ce matin. Est-ce que vous pensez qu'effectivement cela est possible au Cameroun actuellement?
Well, I think anything is possible. Even though there are most of these ministers that have been maintained for quite a long time now.
No, some of them are Minister of State, which means Minister for Life. How would we remove such minister? In the likes of Laurent Essou, Justice Minister, Education, Famille.
Il précise que certains ministres d'État aussi seront enlevés. Comment c'est possible?
Well, I don't think this one is the main problem, because it's a normal thing, because normally ministers, things are supposed to be changing once in a while. They need to change this minister.
Famindo has been there for over 16 years, if I remember, at the level.
That is, they will change and put another minister. Because the major problem I think we have in Cameroon here is not the issue of changing director, changing ministers. Or the problem is to respect the institution in place, respect the laws.
Don't you think the problem is the system? The system in play. When you enter the system swallows.
That's what I'm saying. That the major problem here is the system.
Structure, everything.
Yeah, they have been structured in such a way that even you coming as a youth or whatsoever, you will not do anything. You just work on the way they ask you to do, and if you don't do it the way they want you to do, you have been appointed by somebody. The same person can sign the decree the next day after you have been appointed to terminate your appointment.
Est-ce qu'on veut par là faire croire aux Camerounais que nous n'avons pas assez de jugeotes pour utiliser la force de l'autre pour battre l'autre?
I think some of the problem here is that the institution, as Mr. Lasha was saying, the institution in Cameroon seems to be one of the greatest problem, and the leaders, the leaders are the supreme. Like his SNS Probia himself, he too has not been playing the right thing, doing the right thing. I think he has what he's supposed to do.
There is a system. Don't you think that he too is also suffering?
No, he's only the system. For the meantime, now he has that power.
A system, not him. He didn't put the system in place.
No, as the president of the republic, I think in fact he too can reorganize the system to reorganize things in such a way that will favor the Cameroon. But
tu peux être président d'un pays, mais ne pas être à l'origine du système mafieux autour du pays en même temps.
No,
donc on peut pas dire
mafia, don't you think that there are some mafia groups that are sometimes even more powerful than even the president himself?
No, but not in an autocratic regime like what they have in Cameroon. Those are some things that might be happening maybe I think in democratic countries.
Powerful, I mean those people are the people that if you touch them, you might likely go down.
No, I don't think that
stand by you.
I don't think that is possible. It's not possible within the context of Cameroon. That's why I keep saying that the major problem in Cameroon is President Pobia himself. The major problem is President Pobia himself. Because if maybe a minister or some of these directors,
the people are very powerful, the people go down to the field, they do things for President Pobia. Don't you think that if he touches them, it becomes a problem for him? They will make problem for him?
No, there will be no problem. I think maybe except that President Pobia is saying that he's working in collaboration with them for them to preserve the power. Because I know their major problem here is to conserve power. If they really think that they are working for the interest of Cameroon, I don't think there can be anybody who above the President of the Republic. That's not possible.
Okay, Maitre Alex, CDC workers have once again written to the Prime Minister asking or telling him that government has apparently forgotten about them. Some of them have gone for 28 months without salary. Some have even had to die, from the reports that the Guardian Post is telling us this morning. Why is this issue recurring with CDC, Maitre Alex?
Okay, you're talking about the workers who are paying?
Yes, Maitre. Yes. They have written to a Prime Minister asking him to intervene to solve their problem.
Mr. Lasha, at this point, I can't wait for us to seek to replace this people that they write. My point is, when you write Prime Minister, this make-believe, somebody who have not got powers, what do you expect? When the Anglophone problem started, because the war went to the President of La Republique to Cameroon, Mr. Pobia, did not reply them. Then not to talk of the Prime Minister who have no power. You have ministers like Fam Ngongo, Ayolo. They are more powerful than John. So why are you wasting your pen to write to them? Let's galvanize. Let's join together and start looking for new ways how we can remove people from power. Lasha, I would say this, to be honest. People keep on writing people. They have made people, they have become so inferior, they have lost their mental way of thinking, and they think Cameroon is not their country. So you write to a prime minister. Don't you have a local mayor? Don't you have a member of parliament to go and them and make your complaint? The system has been made in a system that we think there are some almighty people. But at the end of the day, the road passes to the prime minister and goes right to the presidency and go back to the de facto president of Republic of Cameroon, Mr. Macron. So to stop this window dressing exercise, the institution is very important.
Maitre, we are talking about people. We are talking about people who have gone for 28 months without salaries, and you expect them to sit quiet?
I'm not saying they should sit quiet. My point is, do they think that they cannot replace John Gute or Mr. Bia, or do they think that they can remain only CDC workers, they cannot become mayor and change things in Cameroon? Keep on leaving people who are tired. Some of them who have been there, they were ministers in Nigeria, they died as senators. Dakole Daissala was in a top position in 1969, he died as senator. If you keep people who keep on thinking the same, what do you expect? In the United Kingdom, the monarchy used to have power, but with time, people have to change things. And the monarchy, they don't have any power, they are political neutral. Mr. Lasha, if you look at life, Mr. Bia need people who are trusted to be around him. You don't expect Mr. Bia to come and take an untrusted young person and bring Mr. Bia and bring him towards Mr. Bia. It's a young, different person, not becoming age. A a new generation, somebody who thinks differently, somebody who believes that France should not be printing our money, somebody who believes that Africa should change. If we keep on thinking that there's that bureaucracy, that everything was going to be
Alex, is it Maitre Alex?
Mr. Lasha.
Yes, is it Diongute who destroyed the CDC, or the people who said they were fighting to protect the citizens of the Northwest and Southwest?
My problem is that Mr. Diongute called himself head of government. He's not head of government. He was appointed by Mr. Biya. He cannot appoint his own minister. There's no one minister that the head of government that Diongute appointed.
Maitre, you have not answered my question. I'm asking you. These people are suffering today is as a result of low productivity from CDC as a result of the crisis. I'm asking you, is it Diongute who destroyed the CDC?
I've got your answer.
Or the people who said they were fighting? Now. Yes.
Listen, Mr. Lasha, it's not because of low productivity. When you go to a government, when you want to be elected in office, what are your job descriptions? To maintain law and order, national security, enforce law, assist economic. So the government not able to do its function. Forget in any country, whether there's war, whether there are criminals. As a government, you go into power to fight crime and the causes of crime. That's your job. So don't stand and blame that. Example, Boko Haram is causing us trouble. Anglophone, some people are fighting, attacking people. That is why you got to power to fight these things. So if you cannot do it, it means you're failed. You're a failed state. And it's high time the government of Cameroon should know that they cannot exercise their function anymore. And allow us, people like people in the British Cameroon National Party, take over, because we know how to fight crime. We know how to maintain peace and order. We know how to enforce law. We know how to make the judiciary to be independent. We are ready. We are a government in waiting. And the time is now. We have alternative policies. We want to talk about policy, not politics of people. We are ready. The time is now. We want to change that.
Okay, Gwladys, one last question before we leave.
Effectivement, au jour d'aujourd'hui, la dette du Cameroun a augmenté au regard de la hausse du dollar, malheureusement. Le dollar augmente et la dette du Cameroun augmente.
They say the problem is because of the high rate.
C'est ce que les médias.
We have gold in Cameroon, and why is the dollar even? So
pourquoi le dollar doit faire en sorte que
make dollar made to be international exchange money that is, you know, is making a lot of issues when it comes to the world economy. Why we have enormous gold in Africa.
Well, the really big problem I think here is that because our people, our leaders spend their time borrowing money, and we want to know first of all where the money end up. So most of them they say this have a project here, they go and borrow money that they want to execute this project. At the end, the project is not executed, but the money is no longer there. So they are so interested about borrowing money, but they know that it's not they are not the ones to pay the money. It's Cameroonians who are supposed to pay the money. And in the long run, this issue of borrowing will really affect Cameroon, us Cameroonians.
Mais là maintenant, ce n'est pas parce qu'ils ont prêté de l'argent. C'est la dette a augmenté parce que la valeur du dollar a augmenté.
Yeah, but the issue of increase.
C'est comme une dévaluation du franc CFA en même temps.
Well, maybe just so, but the issue of increase and the dollar is a very normal thing. At least that's how it is always. We realize that even for some time, we realize that 1 or 2 months, dollar might increase, and in the next 6 months or 3 months after, it reduce. So it's a normal thing. If that's what they are doing, I don't think there's any problem with that. But it's the issue of dollars, euro, and others. Just the problem of save a franc that has little or no value. That we keep saying, save seem to keep devaluating, reducing the value, keep losing the value on daily basis. So that's why some people think that the issue of changing this issue of the francs to have our own money. We Africans were able to have our own. That is where we have the problem, because we are being influenced by Westerners who are controlling us, because we are still under, I think we are still Cameroon or Africa. Most of African countries are still under the colonial rule, so they are the one dictating on them what to do or what not to do, or the kind of money to use and what not to use. That's what I think.
Okay, Maitre Alex, your last word on this issue of Cameroon's debts increasing as a result of the increase in dollar.
Hello?
Yes, Metro, are you there? Your last words. We are talking debts. Cameroon debts have increased as a result of the increase in dollars.
Yes, the government have to make us that we are always in debt, and France have to borrow us money, and it's a system that have been in place. We cannot have ocean not drink water. So these things are things that if you have people who have new ideas how to deal with GDP, interest rate, monetary policy, with people of new thinking who can bring fresh idea into the government. And I want to say to the government of Cameroon, if you keep on surrounding yourself on people who want to talk to you, you want to listen to yourself, nothing change. The United Kingdom is what it is today because they spoke with people who they used to call terrorists in Ireland, people in Scotland, people with ideology. You work with people who don't have the same ideology with you, you bring them together, the country must move forward. And I will end by saying that we thank the head of state for being president for 40 years. Mr. Bia, you have done your best and we expect you to retire to Mecca very soon and we can move the country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Metro Alex. Thank you to televiewers of My Media Prime Television for watching this other edition of the program. Madu Tante was here with us. He's a human rights defender. Metro Alex, equally, the founder or leader of British Cameroon National Party. He was also with us, or he was joining us from this on Skype to UK. Gwladys Bomotonguina joined me for presentation this morning, and the production was done for us this morning by Akeba Desmond. Tomorrow is another day. Bye-bye.